is a word that is most misunderstood as far as the Malaysian context is concerned, because bloggers has been called names that you can find in the lexicon, in the Webster and Oxford Dictionary, and I don't have to quote them all. But what we attempt to do is basically is to coincide with what the National Alliance of Bloggers was incorporated for. Firstly, is to engage and embrace those who are ignorant, orang jahiliyah, tentang blogging. Big, strong words, to engage and embrace these people who are ignorant about blogs. Secondly, is to protect bloggers who are under attack. But you know, we are just men of no swords, no weapons. So the most that we can offer in terms of protection is basically to link whoever that has come under attack to lawyers who are willing to defend them, maybe on a pro bono basis. So that has been what has happened to us. So that was the basis. Then we thought that might as well, let's put into implementation what we have visualized and envisioned. So first outtake is basically we tap into our international networking, the GBO over there, Global Voices Online. There have been a lot of activities generated by Global Voices Online, so much so that the people behind it got picked up and placed on headlines in newspapers like New York Times and even Guardian in UK. So they must be doing something good. I'll leave it to David to share with us how Global Voices Online came into being in 2004, and then how Global Voices Online in the short 2 years in the past, 2005, 2006, has evolved into something very prominent on the cyberspace, driving the agenda of citizen journalism, or you may call it civil media, you may even call it digital democracy, you may call it grassroots a platform for people to get their voices heard. Whatever terms, whatever names, but basically it is one opportunity where we see technology has really enabled men on the street, people in the crowd, to create a voice box for themselves and try to get their voices heard.
Maybe the first time I had a brush with blogger, the blogosphere. In 2003, I think it was bad enough to try to be an honest journalist in the mainstream media. Suddenly one day I was attacked, I came under attack from a blogger. Jeff Ooi was already a famous blogger then, so he decided one day to pick on me. I was the editor of the Malay Mail, and I can't remember what he was writing about the Malay Mail and how he was doing. And you see that because I did not really understand what blog was, I mistook the comments for his. He did a comment which was quite neutral, but his commenters came out. I suspect there must be some of my journalists as well who came into this and said all sorts of things about me and my antics, this and that. I will not repeat them here. So I said this blogger is too much. So I didn't sue him. Other editors sue bloggers, but I didn't. I decided to try and, the word was not engaged then. I decided to try and hit back at this blogger and the power of the blog. I had to wait. I had a column in the Sunday Times. It's a weekly column. So I will have to wait another week to respond to him. But this blogger only had The minute the newspaper hit the stand, he was already making another posting and attacking me again. This time, personally, he was attacking this columnist. So I had a lot of advice from fellow journalists who said that don't engage the bloggers because you can never win. Because they are fermenters, they are online, they are real time. So don't waste your time.
Blogs are growing very, very fast. And that's why governments now everywhere. In Burma over this past week, they've had to say, whoa, 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 what's going on? How is it that all these people are stating their opinions? Why is everyone participating in this? Why does everybody have a voice? And why are newspapers starting to get influenced by what they're talking about? How are we going to respond to it? Egypt not only has one blogger in jail in Egypt, but multiple bloggers have been jailed in Egypt. That's their tactic. They say, you know what, if you're going to write on your blog that you don't like our president, or that maybe you have some opinions about Islam, then you need to go to jail for 4 years and keep quiet. I think that's been a really bad strategy for Egypt because it's giving them a really bad reputation for their democracy, for the government, and for businesses. Businesses are saying, wait a minute, I like what this guy's blog is. A lot of investors, a lot of big multinational companies are very, very active in blogging. In fact, corporate blogs in the United States are becoming huge. And a lot of big corporations are starting to blog on their own because they've realized that they need to be able to manage the brand. And they've lost that management because it's the bloggers who say, hey, look, this is what Apple's doing. And so they're controlling the brand. What governments need to understand is that a country is a brand too. The word Malaysia is a brand. And how it's represented isn't just by the government. And it's not just by newspapers that are influenced by the government. But bloggers are also managing that brand for them now, on the international scale. The United States is doing it now with these YouTube debates. It's youtube.com/debates. It's the Republican, I think the Democratic candidates already did this for the primaries, where U.S. citizens, I believe it was restricted to U.S. citizens, could record a video of themselves asking the presidential candidates a question. Then CNN and YouTube selected some of those videos, and they had a debate. And it was the people, just like you and me, they tried to select the best questions. Maybe. Some people think they didn't select the best questions. And they had the presidential candidates ask them. So there's really direct participation now between internet users, anyone with a webcam on their computer, and people who will be leading the country. Even the Iranian president has a weblog, which just amazes me. Not only does he have a weblog, he's got a really, really cool weblog. I'm jealous of it. It looks way cooler than mine. He's got every commenter that comes from IP address. He knows what country they're at. He puts it up here. This is a bright guy. It's in how many different languages? Arabic, Farsi, English, French, 4 different languages. And this is a great way for him to get his point out. I don't know if you heard, he was at Columbia University in New York City last week. The president of Columbia University had some pretty angry words for him. Called him a little dictator and everything like that. He actually has some supporters. I can't claim to be one of them, but from El Salvador, from the UK, from the US, and they're saying, oh, that would, in the United States we actually respect free speech much more than that. They should have just given you a neutral platform to speak on. I'm sorry that they did that. He's showing that here. So he's really able to push his issues out onto the internet. And he's not just standing by. He's taking the Rocky approach. He says, all right, you guys are going to be mean to me. I'm going to get in there too. I think that's the spirit. Whether you agree with the guy, whether you don't, he's in there. Ecuador. President Rafael Correa has a YouTube channel where he posts a YouTube video of himself speaking every single week. And he has his own blog, which also looks pretty cool, I think. They've even done some nifty little animated cartoons of what's going on in Parliament. And they understand, first of all, that young people really like cartoons and these animations and think it's cool. And you can get young people involved if you approach them in a way, in a manner that they're able to relate to. He has his own recent posts. He has recent commentaries. So I'm sure that they moderate their comments. They might even censor comments to a certain degree. But I bet if you were willing to speak eloquently, and even if you challenged him, that they would publish that too, because all bloggers know that you don't always have support. part of being a blogger is having thick skin and being okay with people criticizing you and accepting that criticism. And even these leaders of countries know that they need to do that too. So he's really taking a very proactive stance for blogging. The Los Angeles Police Department also has a weblog. The LAPD has a very bad reputation. I'm sure all of you remember Rodney King. He was the black man who was on the floor and there was 4 cops who were beating him. The LAPD, there are more videos like this that have been leaked out onto YouTube. So this has been a big problem for LAPD. And it was the same type of thing. Okay, how are we going to respond to this? They're not going to sue YouTube. They're not going to block YouTube in the country because that would, it just wouldn't be accepted. So what do? They start their own weblog. And they take videos of their officers being really great guys, and you see another side of the Los Angeles police officers, which I was a huge skeptic, but they do a lot of good, and it's important to document the good and the bad. So if bloggers are beating up on a certain ministry or a certain politician, that person should get right back in and fight back. I can tell in Malaysia there's a big fear factor when it comes to blogging. If I write something, am I going to lose my job? And am I going to prevent myself from getting a good job in the future? If I'm the first person, am I going to be detained by some authority and questioned? What's going to happen to me? And there have been some examples of lawsuits and the people being taken into custody for questioning that doesn't bode well. And I think it's actually done to intimidate people so that they do self-censor. And so that they're not feeling comfortable to say, oh yeah, I want to be part of this. Look at what these other countries are doing. This is great. We can do even better. Instead of saying, I don't want to be the first one. And it reminds me of when I was a kid, when I was in high school, there was this waterfall that we would go to. There's a big rock, it's about 40 feet up, which doesn't seem too high, but you look down and then there was this big river below us. And it was so much fun. And what we would do is we would get on the rock and we would jump. And there were about 10 of us, and we would get up there. And before we would jump, we would be really scared for about half an hour. And that was kind of the excitement. And we would look down, and we would look at each other, and we would step back, and we would keep doing this. And it was this play, and nobody wanted to be the first person to jump. But every time that we went there, someone would be brave enough, someone would just do it, would just jump, and within half a second, the rest of us were in the air and in the water, and we were having such a great time. We get down there, we laugh, we say, oh, thank goodness we did it, and it's great. It's that getting that first person, the first 2 people, the first 1,000 people. And that's the tipping point. When you reach the tipping point, that means that everyone feels safe. There's no way that 2,000 people, 10,000 people are going to get arrested.
I think I need to relate to you how David operates in his position as the head of Rising Voices. Now, Rising Voices is one of the arms of Global Voices. And Global Voices first started as a project, as an outcome of the Bloggers Summit held in 2004, Harvard Law School, hosted by the Brooklyn Center for Internet and Society. And what happened was that because of the momentum, the level of enthusiasm generated at the end of the 2004 Summit of Bloggers, and then something happened. That is what we call the Global Voices Online. And later on, corporations like Reuters funded some of the projects, and with that came some other funders who believed in Global Voices Online. And here you go, you have the Rising Voices that is headed by David, and you have another one that is called the Outreach. Basically, whenever you have any country blocking any of the websites or any of the blog services like Blogspot, WordPress.com, and so on, the advocacy part of Global Voices Online will come on board and spread the news. So, and it got picked up by the major wire agencies. So these two arms are working hand in hand together, and you have this partnership, Global Voices Online.
My magazine is licensed by the government. So I hope I'm not going to lose the license because I'm blogging now. But certainly I've lost all the invitation for the Buka Puasa. I did not receive a single invitation for Buka Puasa, even from my dearest, closest minister's friend. Now this is a fact. 3 days ago, press secretary to a very senior minister called me and said, Datuk, I'm very, 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 very sorry. My boss cannot officiate at your function. And he said, you understand why? Why? Because I'm a blogger. Essentially, I'm not a blogger. I'm a journalist just using blogs. I'm still writing the same thing that I used to write in the Straits Time, or I still have column in my magazine. But there is that price that you have to pay. I was telling Jeff that one corporation used to subscribe to 3,000 copies of Unlisted Business. This one I hope the mainstream press don't report, because this is very private. It's almost embarrassing to tell my story. But let me put it this way. This corporation used to subscribe to 3,000 copies of one of my magazines. Today it's 0. I offered free of charge 300 copies per issue. They said, no, thank you very much. That is because in my column, in that magazine, as well as in my blog, I do ask questions.